Hey guys, you should have watched video 3 called The Door in the Face. As an activity, you were supposed to fill in the blanks in the script that is in your booklet. Please only watch this video if you have already watched video 3 on our website and you have already filled in the blanks in your booklet. Okay, you need to take out your notes. We are now going to have a look at the missing words, and this will be an opportunity for you to correct yourself. As you can see, the missing words are indicated in red. Today, I want to talk about a strategy called the door in the face strategy. Here's how it works. Let me illustrate with a story. So I go to a gas station and the card reader wasn't working, so I have to walk inside the actual gas station to pay. I'm waiting in line. All of a sudden, I hear a voice say to me, "Man, mister, that's a real nice car you have." Okay, let's pause on this first slide for a second. Strategy, the first word was easy to find. Here's how it works. I hope you added the S because we can't really hear it on the video you watched. Then it gets slightly more complicated. The card reader wasn't working. He says it really quickly, wasn't working. Okay, so you can't really hear the T, wasn't. Okay, the next little bit. Inside the actual, usually you don't get it right because you don't know how to pronounce actual. Okay, it's quite far off from the French actuel. It's not actual, it's actual. Okay. Last little bit, all of a sudden. Some of you maybe didn't know the expression. It's the same as suddenly. Okay, c'est tout d'un coup. And here again, the speaker goes really quickly, so you don't really hear all of a sudden, of course. You hear all of a sudden. Okay, let's continue. I look off to the corner. There's a young man about 12, 13 years old sitting on the tub. And I looked at him and said, thank you. And he says, well, I love the colour you picked out. I go, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, let's have a look at this. About 12, 13 years old. We can't really hear about, all we hear is about 12 years old. Okay, when we tend to speak quickly, this is a sound that will tend to disappear. About becomes bout. Okay. Second bit. The colour you picked out. A lot of you tend to write pick up. Okay, so because maybe you don't know pick out. Right. To pick out or to pick means to choose. To pick up means ramasser. Okay. And the last one, I appreciate that. Usually you get that one right. Let's move on. He says, you've got good taste in cars. Why did you choose that car? I'm like, why am I having this conversation with a 12, 13-year-old? Funny he says this. Man, one day I wish I have a car just like that. And at that moment, I looked at him and said, well, maybe one day you will. Okay, good taste wasn't that easy to hear because you don't hear good taste, you hear good taste. So you can't really hear the D, okay? Good taste, that's all you hear. Maybe you had trouble identifying it because a lot of French people say good, okay? It's not good, it's good. It's much closer to the sound E, like le E en français. Okay, vous pouvez essayer de l'écrire G-U-E-U-D. Good. Okay, on est déjà bien mieux que good. So, good taste. Un dernier point, et je vous le dis en français, on n'entend pas le D parce que les deux mots ont tendance à fusionner. Plus on parle vite, plus les mots vont fusionner entre eux. Donc on entend good taste et pas le D. Okay, the last little bit, just like that, you usually get that right. Okay, let's move on. At that very moment, the young man stands up and says, you know what? That's exactly why I'm here. He lifts the top off and exposes these boxes of chocolates he was selling. He said, I'm selling these boxes of chocolates to raise money. Would you like to buy a box of chocolates? Okay, I know a lot of you find it very difficult to find that first bit at that very moment, okay? And the reason is always the same. It's because the speaker speaks very, very quickly. At that very moment, okay? Which we can translate in French as à ce moment précis. Okay. I'm selling these box of chocolates to raise money. That one you usually find. And the last little bit was a box of chocolates. You usually find that one too. I'm just going to stop on the pronunciation of the word chocolate. C'est un des mots les plus charcutés par les Français qui ont tendance à dire chocolate. Donc ils rajoutent une syllabe et puis on n'accentue pas les bons sons, voire même on les déforme. Alors vous allez retenir ceci. C'est seulement 2 syllabes. Choc. Lut. Pas de late. Lut. Chocolate. Et l'accent tonique va tomber sur la première syllabe. A box of chocolates. Okay, let's move on. I looked at him and said, no, not really. And he says, would you at least buy 1 bar? Well, I wound up buying 2 bars. It wasn't until I got home that I realised I just got suckered by a 12 to 13-year-old. Because here's what he did. And then there's a mystery word. It looks like he says fascinating, but there aren't enough syllables, so we'll just have to do with this mystery word. Okay. At least, I know this is the first little bit that was missing is usually something you find very hard to hear because you won't hear at least. You won't hear the at. You will hear at least. And the T tends to disappear also at the end of least. Would you at least buy 1 bar? Okay, let's move on to the next part. He used the door in the face tactic. See, the first offer he made me was the box of chocolates. Right here, the box. That is called the bogus request. Most people know that you're going to reject their first one, so that's why they offer it. Okay, I know some students write down the door in the face technique instead of the door in the face tactic. If you listen to me, you'll see both words are not pronounced the same. Technique, tactic. Okay, moving on. But no sooner than they offer you the bogus request, the box of chocolates, they then offer you what we call the target request, which is what? A bar of chocolate. In other words, if you ask for something big, most likely the person is going to reject it. So you can therefore retreat to something they'll probably accept. Okay, I know the first bit was very difficult to find. No sooner than. Most of you don't know this structure. It's aussitôt que. And please note that this que is not a that, it's than. No sooner than. And I think the rest of them were quite easy to find too, most likely to reject and probably accept. The only difficulty here is that the speaker, again, is speaking very, very, very quickly. So you probably had to pause quite a lot. What I suggest you do before you move on, or at the end of this video, whatever you like, I suggest that you now listen to the video again and you'll see how much easier it sounds now. Now we've worked on it, now you have the script. It would be really interesting for you to go back to it and appreciate it a bit more this time. Okay, what conclusions can we draw? Well, we know that step 1, you need to make a large request. It's one that they'll probably say no to, but it doesn't matter because it's your fake request. Step 2, immediately, once they said no, you immediately make a smaller, much more reasonable request, which is in fact your real request. The person is now more likely to say yes. So, here again, I'm going to ask you why. Why do you reckon they're now more likely to say yes to one of your requests? Well, simply because most people do not like saying no twice in a row. It might sound really silly, but most people don't like it. Okay, of course, this can be cultural and can depend maybe even on generations, but most of the time people don't like seeing no twice in a row. The second, and maybe a very important reason, is the fact that they feel they're winning the negotiation. Okay? You started with a massive request. They're like, oh God, no, go away. And then you retreat to something so reasonable. They think, well, if I accept that, then I've won this negotiation. Okay? So it's sort of this double effect. People don't like saying no twice in a row. And people like having the impression of winning the negotiation. And it is the impression they get here. Right, you can now pause, go back, watch the video again if you need to complete your notes and correct your answers.